technology here. I'm turning 70, so I have another pair of glasses.
It happens before then too.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Each time they tweak it a little bit more. Well, it's really nice being here again and feeling the energy of this sacred space. And there's, I don't know, it's really cool that a lot of the songs that we sing here remind me of the Unity Church that I was spiritual leader of in Fort Pierce so many years ago. And this shows that we're all one. What my ministry is about how there is nothing new under the sun. We're all a manifestation of spirit. We're all here as components of God, higher power, whatever you want to call it. And so my lecture today is going to demonstrate some of that. I'm going to be speaking a little bit about the power of animal guides, but before I do that, I'd like to share a little bit how I got into shamanism. And of course, I'm going to be tying shamanism into spiritualism. A lot of people don't realize that shamanism is really the root of spiritualism, sometimes known as ancient spiritualism. So I'm going to talk about some references, and I've been doing quite a bit of research in that area, and I'll show you some of the known writers and thinkers of the past and how they put it together. But first, I'm just going to speak quickly about how I got into the shamanic path. Some of you have heard my story. Probably, please bear with me here. It started with me around 1974, actually November 21st, where I had a near-death experience. And it was a head-on collision, 50 miles an hour, both vehicles. And at the moment of collision, I felt myself going through a funnel, or a tunnel. And of course, I had the classical life review. I'm not going to get into that too much detail. A lot of people have written about the subject, but it was a textbook near-death experience. Relevant parts of my life flashed in front of me. And then I felt a communication with the Creator. And the main thing about that is I felt a sense of oneness. There wasn't any old man with a beard, judging me or anything like that. It was more of a telepathic sense of feeling unconditional love. And after experiencing that, I came back to ordinary reality in the hospital. Surgeons were working diligently on putting me back together. Humpty Dumpty, we were put back together again. And I did look like Humpty Dumpty. And I also remember connecting with my spirit guides. Now, the reason why I'm talking about this briefly is because back in the 80s, I studied a whole number of different spiritual systems, and I'm not going to get into that. It really is not relevant. But one of the most powerful systems of healing that I have experienced was in shamanism. And I remember going to my first workshop with Dr. Michael Harner, who was the head of anthropology at the New School of Social Research, and he lived with different indigenous cultures throughout South America, and had a very practical workshop that he presented. And I remember my first journey, what we call a shamanic journey. And lo and behold, the system that was used was entering into a tunnel, having a life review, seeing spirits in the middle world, and eventually going into what we call the lower world, connecting with a higher being, and eventually, once I got to the destination, there was this big, beautiful, fat polar bear who met me. And I said, okay, this is for me, because this is the closest thing that I can connect to my near-death experience. And I felt that same love and the same nurturing that I experienced initially in my near-death experience. And so since then, I knew that that was the path for me. And what was really cool is that years later, my uncle came up to me and said, listen, I hear you're into that shamanism stuff. He was deputy police commissioner in New York at the time. Serpico trials, very, very legal, very not a shaman in any way. He said, I want you to know that your great-great-grandfather was a shaman in Bessarabia, which was a part of Russia, near Ukraine. And he said, I just want you to know it's a part of your heritage. So he said it. My Uncle Milty. And so I'm going to talk to you a little bit about spiritualism, shamanism, and how it kind of weaves together. And so over the years, I've seen very little written about spiritualist philosophy and mediumship and its potential in communicating with the kingdoms of nature. But after researching the subject, I found some interesting references linking the two. Todd J. Leonard, PhD, makes mention of the animal communication within the context of shamanic traditions in his book, Talking to the Other Side, A History of Modern Spiritualism and Mediumship. And this is a great history book. If you ever want to study history of spiritualism, he's one of the few people that really kind of dig into the roots as well as talk about modern spiritualism. Excellent, excellent book. And it's one you can understand. Not some of the old English, like the books. Then David Gordon Wilson, a spiritualist from the Portobello Spiritualist Church in Edinburgh, Scotland, mentions in his book Redefining Shamanism, spiritualist mediums and other traditional shamans, states the following. He said, and I'm quoting here, the raising of spirit and communication with the dead is often known as necromancy, a widespread and ancient practice. Shamanism is one of the most widespread ancient spiritual traditions that is found amongst indigenous people that most closely resembles modern spiritualism. It's quite common for the shaman to talk to dead ancestors as well as communicate with animal spirits. Nelson and other spiritualist writers in Scotland consistently write of shamanism as an indigenous form of spiritualism. Andrew Jackson Davis, if you can get through some of his books. I love Andrew Jackson Davis. In his book, Principles of Nature, he says that the vegetable, mineral, and higher animal forms demonstrate their intelligence via the laws of association, progression, and development. Its universal predisposition and homeocentric unity and individuation is clearly reflected. Okay, I'll speak English now. With Andrew Jackson Davis, you're really a mouthful. In other words, through the law of interconnectedness and interdependence, we, the animal, vegetable, and mineral kingdoms, are all interconnected. Davis says that the human brain, and this is really cool, The human brain possesses the concentrated power and beauty of all cerebral organizations in nature. And we humans are endowed with the ability to connect with their essence and vice versa. So in other words, we are pre-programmed to connect with the animal, vegetable, mineral kingdom. It's within our DNA. And there was a time when that was normal. That was normal, where humanity was able to talk with the animal, vegetable, mineral kingdoms on a regular basis. Now, from the spiritualist perspective, we can explain some of this simply through the first and second principles of spiritualism. The first principle states that we believe in infinite intelligence. Within the context of spiritualism, the word infinite means without end or limitation. It's boundless, immeasurable, inexhaustible, and eternal. It embraces all. It is the totality of being, including all knowledge, all space, and all life. Intelligence. I'm going to use the word intelligence within the context of divine intelligence. In other words, it is the kind of intelligence that emanates from the divine or universal mind. Everything that ever was and ever will be is within the context of infinite intelligence. Either you're speaking it from a oneness perspective or you're separating it. But once you start separating things, you're coming from the head, you're coming from what I call a third dimensional perspective. So I think it's really important to define what perspective you're holding when we communicate with each other, especially as mediums and educators and speakers and so on and so forth. The only limitations are the limitations that our human minds conjure up to put form to the formless. And that's our job as human beings. Humans are the intermediaries between heaven and earth. And we have, as humans, have the capacity to put shape and form to the formless through our minds. Edgar Cayce used to say, many of you have heard me speak before, heard me speak of Edgar Cayce. He used to say, spirit is the life, the mind is the builder, and the physical is the result. When we have a insight, when we're connecting with spirit, which is formless, we have this idea, we have this unarticulated connection with inspiration. But once we feel the inspiration, we want to put shape and form to it. And so, just like an architect who is inspired to build this beautiful cathedral, first there's the inspiration, then the mind puts shape and form to it. Make a blueprint and write it down. Mind is the builder. Physical is the result, is the architect will actually manifest it and build a beautiful cathedral. And this is a law, this is a spiritual law. Spirit is the life, the mind is the builder, and the physical is the result. And we're doing this on a regular basis, wherever we are. Okay. Second principle of spiritualism. We believe that the phenomena of nature, both physical and spiritual, are the expression of infinite intelligence. In other words, we believe that God, or the infinite intelligence, is expressed through all of nature. This includes the animal, vegetable, and mineral kingdom. The metaphysician, Dr. Emily Cady, in her book, Lessons in Truth, states the following. There's only one God in the universe, one source of all the different forms of life or intelligence, which we see, whether they be human, animal, rocks, or trees. But this is profound. This is profound to me. But this, Steve was talking about the cranes and the animals out there in nature. My God, does that lift me up energetically? Oh man, and it's a spiritual connection that we have with the animal kingdom. So what this means is that not only is everything in the world interconnected, but everything in the world is beyond and alive is everything on the world and beyond, I should say, is alive and conscious on some level. We're dealing with consciousness. And this includes the animal, vegetable, mineral kingdoms. And I said the word beyond. That means also the sun and the moon and the stars. If I had more time, I would talk about some of the research where they have found that within the intracellular fluid of individuals, there is actually stardust in us, and you can trace it. So we are all interconnected with the stars, moon, animals, everything. Each kingdom resonates and vibrates and oscillates at a particular frequency. This concept is extremely important when it comes to communicating with the different kingdoms, or shall I say, dimensions of consciousness. In spiritualism, I'm going to speak a little bit about universal law. What's closely related to the second principle is the law of vibration. Dr. Victoria Barnes, who wrote a small book entitled Natural Law, published by the NSAC, states that when we use the word vibration, there immediately arises in our minds the thought of motion. This principle or law embodies the truth that everything is in motion, everything vibrates. Nothing is at rest. Nothing. This principle explains that the differences between different manifestations of matter, energy, mind, and even spirit, down to the grossest form of matter, all is vibration. In terms of the animal, vegetable, mineral kingdoms, the following may apply. When the consciousness of the medium aligns with the consciousness of the animal, vegetable, and mineral kingdoms via the law of mind action, we can learn from them as they can learn from us. And I have to say that their intelligence and our intelligence, we can't say one is smarter than the other or more wise than the other. It's just a different level, a different kind of intelligence. So we learn from each other. If we take what Andrew Jackson Davis says literally, our brains are pre-programmed to resonate with the consciousness of the animal, vegetable, and mineral kingdom. Okay. So now we're going to talk a little bit about the shamanic perspective. The word shaman originated from the word in Siberia, So a lot of people think that shamanism is Native American spirituality. Well, Native American spirituality is only one culture that expresses shamanic traditions. South America, Australia, New Zealand, Russia, every part of the world has its own type of shamanism. And so the word shaman originated in Siberia and eventually came to be applied to all medicine men and women of indigenous cultures whose practice included the flight of the soul. Anthropologists studying indigenous cultures throughout the world began to find that for different cultures there were similarities in the way the medicine men and women connected with their spirit guides. Either in animal or human form, it was known by all that the spirit guides were the true healers. Even back thousands of years ago, they knew this stuff. While there are differences in species within each culture, or specifics, I should say, in each culture, removing the cultural reference or vocabulary reveals a core system of practicing amongst those who played the role of the village shaman. This core practice can be called core shamanism, and this was coined by the anthropologist Michael Harner. I like to call this generic process journeying beyond time, because basically that's what we're doing. And basically what is required is that we go beyond this third dimensional state of consciousness into what I call a fourth dimensional state of consciousness. And I don't use the word F-O-U-R-T-H, because that puts a limit to it. I put F-O-R-T-H. forth because it's unlimited. As we evolve as individuals, as we evolve as souls, the more we can see. And the more we can see, the more we're able to put shape and form to it. But that's a never-ending process. We're constantly learning and growing. We're constantly understanding new things. And 10 years from now, we're going to look back and say, oh yeah, and move on and on and on and on and on. It's never-ending. That's why I love this work. Because you can't say you know it all. You never know it all. And we're constantly evolving. And so Journey Beyond Time is the practice of these core techniques for self-healing, healing others, gaining spiritual insight, divination, and contacting the other side of life. Now I'll talk a little bit about the animal guides. In the shamanic traditions, as in spiritualism, it is believed that everything is alive and comes with a power or wisdom. And when I use the word power, I don't mean macho power, I mean energy power, like intense energy. Connecting with the animal guides are an essential component of shamanic practice. They are the helping spirits which add to the power of the shaman and are essential for success in any venture undertaken by the shaman. Shamans believe that everyone has animal guides, and these animal spirits reside with each individual adding to their personal power. They protect you from physical and emotional illness and act as guardians just like the angels do. They protect you from negative energy, including negative thought forms. The animal spirit also lends you with the wisdom of its kind or species. So, in other words, if you are resonating with the energy of the hawk, not only are you resonating with the energy of hawk, but you're resonating with the whole species from the very beginning. And you're able to access that energy and that knowledge. Everyone is thought to have a few of these guardian animals. Animal guides do not have to be mammals and can be reptiles, insects, or sea creatures. Plants and trees can serve as plant spirit guides as well. Minerals and rocks, and they can serve as guides too. Everything is alive. Everything has intelligence. Everything has consciousness. Domesticated animals are generally not considered animal guides, but they are already in service to human beings. However, there's no rules. It is possible to have the domesticated animals as a guide. So it's just not commonly. Okay. The gift of an animal offers mostly an individualized gift. It is considered that there are certain qualities attributed to certain animals. An animal guide can come to help you with an issue that is very specific to you. It is important not to lock each animal into a category and be open to the gifts that they may be coming to share specifically with you. And I'm just going to just say briefly, I did a doctorate. My doctorate was on studying this journey work with individuals who experience trauma. It was a qualitative research project. And we went through this process. People went through about 10 journeys. And then we evaluated how the journeys and connecting with their animal guides affected them physically, emotionally, and spiritually. And at the end of the study, we found out that their quality of life, and some of these people really have severe issues of trauma, their quality of life has improved greatly after going through this process and connecting with their animal guides to help them through some of the challenging aspects of what we go through when we're traumatized. So this was a practical way of measuring this so-called airy-fairy stuff that we read about. Okay. I'm just going to mention briefly about the shamanic journey. What makes a shaman different from other mystics and visionaries is the intentional journey, or soul flight into the spirit world. In other words, unlike the common perception that humans must wait for spirits of nature or the dead to make contact, the shaman initiates contact by going directly to the spirit world. We just don't wait. We go directly. Rather than waiting for the spirits to visit us, the shaman becomes the visitor into the invisible realms. Because shamans know the entry points, shamans can cross the borders of ordinary and non-ordinary reality at will. They can enter into the spirit's reality and develop the skills, understanding, and competence for functioning in that state of consciousness. Okay. Now I'm going to share a little story. This is a true story. Many years ago, I went through a dark night of the soul. I was facing a divorce, and I thought my life was over. Also, my business went bankrupt. This was with my first wife, and business went bankrupt. I hit rock bottom, and I felt like my life was over. I had nothing to live for, and I came this close to putting an end to things. And so I had what you call a Job experience, Job in the Bible, if you want to be specific. I was angry at God, and I was even questioning the existence of God. And so a friend of mine owned an island off the coast of Maine called Rock Island. And she invited me to go there on a silent retreat. And so I went. It was my last resort, basically. And so I thought maybe I can find some inner peace there. So after my third day in silence, I felt this energy pulling me. And so I took a walk. And the way Rock Island is structured is that there's a lot of dirt roads, and then there's trees, and then there's the water, because it's an island. And I heard something calling me. It was just calling me. And it was a high-pitched vibration. I had no idea what it was. And so I walked, and walked, and walked. And meanwhile, I was thinking to myself, oh, God, please, I just hope that there's some sort of sign that there's something like God, something there that will soothe my soul. And then all of a sudden, 50 feet in front of me, there was an eagle. Right in front of me, and the eagle, I should say, landed in front of me. And so I started following it. And then the eagle looked back at me. And eagles don't do that. Eagles don't do that. And the eagle walked, and it was kind of hobbling a little bit, just like me, with my left leg. I hobbled. But it was almost as if the eagle was imitating me. So I was walking and walking, the eagle was walking, and the eagle looked back, and I kept on following. I was afraid to get too close to the eagle. That was always going to happen. The eagle kept on going. And then all of a sudden, the eagle flew to a branch off to the side on a tree. And I looked to the side, I looked down, and there was a path. Not a path, but there was an opening, I should say. And there was a big, beautiful ocean, and there was all these beautiful rocks there, which I call the land of rocks. It was breathtaking. And so I walked there, and then I hear something calling me again. But it was like at a lower frequency. It was like a hum almost. And so I walked and walked and walked, and the sound got louder and louder and louder. And all of a sudden I bent down, and I looked, and there was this rock. There was this rock. I have it here right now. I'll pass this around. If you look at it, there's the face of an eagle on this rock. Lo and behold, I broke down in tears. And I said, thank you, thank you, thank you, Spirit. This is the sign I was looking for. And now I knew that I was not alone. Now I know that the animal, vegetable, and mineral kingdom and humanity were all one. We're all interconnected. We're all a part of the creative order. Thank you, God. And that sense of separation, that sense of loneliness that I experienced before then, dissipated. And I knew that life was going to move forward, and life was going to continue, and things were going to get better. This was the light at the end of the tunnel for me. Thank you, God. And thank you all for listening to me.